Michael Malloy was the man that wouldn't die. He was a homeless alcoholic who found himself in Tony Marino's speakeasy most nights of the week. It wasn't unusual for Malloy to drink in excess and pass out on the floor. In fact, at times Malloy would just wake up on the floor, dust himself off, and order another round. All this would be well and good, except that Malloy didn't always pay his tab. In July of 1932, a couple of Marino's bar regulars, Francis Pesqua and Daniel Kreisenberg, made a proposal. The idea was to take out an insurance policy on Malloy, give him carte blanche at the bar, and let nature take its course. Pesqua was an undertaker, so taking care of the little odds and ends, that was easy. The men took out not one, but three policies on Malloy. They also got a fourth conspirator involved, Joseph Murphy, to agree to play the role of Malloy's next of kin. Murphy was one of Marino's bartenders. Once Malloy was declared dead, each man would walk away with $3,500. That's more than $80,000 in today's money. By December, everything was in order, and they told Malloy, your money is no good here. Anything you want, it's on the house. Malloy drank his fill, pushed himself to the limit night after night, and at closing, he'd brush himself off, thank everybody for their gratuity, and walk out into the cold New York streets. After several evenings of this, they realized they were going to lose money. Something had to be done, and soon. Instead of giving Malloy unlimited drinks, after enough whiskey to get him thoroughly sloshed, they swapped out his drinks with wood alcohol, also known as methanol. This is a highly toxic alcohol that is used for things like antifreeze and paint thinner and fuel. It didn't kill Malloy. He continued to drink it. Then he'd pass out, then he'd wake up, and he'd drink some more, and he'd call it a day. Soon, the murderous crew realized they needed to step up their game even more. First, they gave him poison-laced oysters, which he washed down with wood alcohol. Didn't kill him. Next, they gave him rotten sardines filled with sharp metal shavings. Malloy, of course, just wanted more. Finally, Marino suggested that they dip into his old bag of tricks. You see, Malloy wasn't the first attempted murder. Previously, Marino befriended a homeless woman named Maribel Carson on a cold winter's night. He got her drunk, stripped her naked, doused her in water, and let her sleep it off under an open window. Just like Malloy, Marino had a policy out on her too, of course. And when she was found dead, he laughed his way to the bank. If it worked once, it could work again, right? Well, getting Malloy drunk enough to pass out, that was easy. And once he did, they simply took him to the local park, dumped him on a bench, and called it a day. The team neglected to let Murphy in on the prank. Malloy came knocking at the speakeasy door, complaining of the cold, and Murphy let him in to sleep it off. By February, at least 3 more accomplices had joined the team of wannabe murderers, and a new plan was hatched. One of the new members, Harry Green, offered to just run Malloy over with his cab. Once again, they got him drunk enough that he could barely stand. They then brought him out to the middle of nowhere, and 2 men held him up in the middle of the street while Green sped towards them, and the men jumped out of the way. At the last minute, Malloy also jumped out of the way. In fact, it took 3 times before actually achieving their goal and hitting Malloy with the car. Just to be sure, they backed it up and ran over him again. before speeding off because they saw oncoming headlights. It would take several days before anyone would see Michael Malloy's body. Except it wasn't in the way they expected. Malloy wandered into the speakeasy, fully alive. He was bruised, he was bandaged, he remembered only drinking whiskey and waking up in Fordham Hospital. On February 21st, 1933, the team had had enough. They got him trashed, brought him to a tenement house, wrapped his head in a towel, and ran a rubber hose from the gas line directly into Malloy's mouth. Pasqua had a doctor write up documents showing Malloy's cause of death as pneumonia. They had finally achieved their goal. But at what cost? And I'm not talking about insurance fraud. They only got an $800 check from one of the three companies. But in this whole process, the men created a legend. Malloy was known as Iron Mike to some. He was known as Mike the Durable to others. He had a reputation in every speakeasy and by the police. He was the man that couldn't die. The police weren't going to just look the other way. They wanted to know what finally took him out. And they had the body exhumed and forensically examined. It quickly became clear that it wasn't pneumonia. The doctor who falsified the documents was convicted of not reporting a suspicious death. Green spent time in prison, and Marino, Pasqua, Murphy, and Kreisenberg were all sentenced to death by electric chair.